Hi guys, Shimo Polot here. Welcome back to the channel. So this week I want to talk to you about survey tools. Why are survey tools so important? Because if you run a business, then an essential part of what you do should be collecting feedback from your clients. This applies to business, this applies to content creation, this applies to anything that requires you to interact with the public. You need to know what people think about what you did, and you need to collect that information and use that information to make adjustments. So this video is about the different survey tools that exist out there that help you to achieve this goal. And my goal at the end of this video will be for you to pick the survey tool that you feel is right for your needs. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is very briefly survey design. Okay, so and to talk about survey design, I am going to use the most common survey tool used out there, which is Google Forms. Why is Google Forms the most commonly used? Because Google Forms is the most 100% free tool out there. A few things about survey design. First thing you have to know is if you're creating surveys, then you want to make sure, especially if you don't want to overanalyze the surveys, then you want to make sure you limit your free response options as much as you can. What do I mean by free response options? When you give people the chance to write, those questions in surveys about provide additional feedback, let us know what you thought about this, let us know what you thought about that. You want to limit those kinds of questions as much as possible, because the more free rein you give people to share their opinions, people will write paragraphs, and I mean paragraphs of information, which just makes it harder for you to analyze what they're saying. So, you do need some free response text in there. Like if you had an event, you need some free response text at the bottom just saying any additional feedback, what things can we do differently, just because you can get some really cool insights from those kinds of questions. But if all the questions in your survey are free response, then honestly, you're in trouble. What can you do to limit free response, which is at the root of survey design? So let's talk about that really briefly. Okay, so my Google form, the first thing I do is I give it a title. Let me call it sample survey. Okay, the next thing is, for example, so if I want to get the person's name, one of the things I like about Google Forms is it is very intuitive. So I type name, it automatically selects short answer. So name is a short answer response, and I can't do anything about that. So the only thing that you can do is add some perspective. So you can tell someone, you can add a description there and say, write your full name, as in, and then put Shem Opolot, like that, just to tell them what you want their name to appear as. Adding that description is really valuable because it helps the people filling out your form know exactly what kind of responses you're looking for. So add it as frequently as you can. And almost all survey tools allow you to put some sort of description below the question text. Okay, so now people will know that when they come in, they have to enter their first name and their last name. Okay, so the next thing is if I want to know how do you rate the event. So whenever you're rating an event, then again, Google Forms, very intuitive. Ratings tend to be on some sort of linear scale, 1 to 5. You could make it 1 to 10. As you can see here, you could extend the options, but 1 to 5 is usually great. And the most important thing about a linear scale is to tell us what the different limits are. So 1 in this case will be bad, and 5 in this case will be excellent. Okay? And we shall see what these look like when we preview the form, so you can see what the respondents will be looking at when they're filling out the form. That is one option again. The other option is multiple choice. Multiple choice is really good because you're limiting the responses to all the different options that you give them. So whenever you are asking a question and you know all the possible answers, then you're in a good place to be. So for example, if you want to ask your favorite subject in, let me say, in primary school. Okay? Now, this is great because when I was in primary school, we only had 4 subjects. So I just do English. Oh, I can't type to save my life. English. Then I add math. Then I add science. And then I add social studies. Okay, and then that's that for that question. Now, the reason why this is important, if you know all the options that you want, all the possible answers that you want, then it's best you put those possible answers in some sort of multiple choice question. If there are very many options, like if there are 15 of them, then to make the form look nicer, instead of a multiple choice option, you can use a drop down. A drop down also does the same thing. It's just that the drop down will make the form look cleaner and more compressed, because you have to click the drop down to then see all the different options that you have to select. That's really the difference in the situations when I would use multiple choice versus drop down, okay? But yes, so in this case, you want them to choose one of the options and not multiple ones. If you want to use the case whereby you want them to choose more than one option, then you use checkboxes instead of multiple choice. Again, you just come down here and checkboxes. Again, I'm using Google Forms because it's the most accessible. It's the survey tool that most people are familiar with. Once you understand these basics in Google Forms, then you can really use any other survey tool out there, okay? So checkboxes if you want your respondents to choose more than one answer, okay? So for example, if you're asking them about their dietary requirements, maybe you list chicken and beef and fries and things like that. And if you want someone to go in there and select chicken and beef and fries, checkboxes work better than multiple choice in that case, okay? At the end, after getting all the questions you want, then you can ask them for any additional feedback. Now, again, any additional feedback, I forget how long a short answer versus a paragraph is, but for me, I almost always just do short answer, because the short answer is pretty long enough usually for most responses, and so it allows people to, again, I don't want someone to put a whole paragraph in there, okay? So to do that, I leave almost everything to short answer. I force people to be brief so that they can condense all the input they have into this small form, okay? So there we go. The other option that I want to talk about is the multiple choice grid. The difference between regular multiple choice and the multiple choice grid is just a multiple choice grid allows you to ask someone several different questions at once with the same options. So for example, your multiple choice options could be yes or no, and you want to know that for a bunch of different things. Did you enjoy the event? Did you enjoy the food? Did you enjoy the weather? Did you enjoy the facilitators? Did you enjoy the instructors? All that stuff. On all those different questions that you're asking about, all have the same multiple choice option, which is yes or no, or even a scale of 1 to 5, or poor to excellent. That's when you use a multiple choice grid. And selecting it is simple. Let me show you. So I just type, did you enjoy these features of the event? And I select a multiple choice grid, and then so row 1 would become, let's say, the food. And so in the columns are the ones that appear at the top. So I would put, let me just do yes and no. So yes and no. So then the food, I would put the music, I would put the weather, not like you could control that. And I would put, let me put ushers. Okay, something like that. So then we are done, okay? So now we have a sort of sample form here. Now I want to show you what this form looks like. And don't forget that in Google Sheets, in Google Forms, you can choose to make the questions required by toggling this button on or off. If you want to make your forms as easy as possible to fill out, then make the questions that you don't feel very strongly about optional. That way people can go through your form a lot faster. That's just a hack that you need to know. But so yeah, our form here is done really quickly. And now I'm going to go up here to this I, and I'm going to preview the form. And so this is what our respondents form will look like, okay? And so you see here, did you enjoy these features of the event? And it has food, music, weather, ushers, and so you would say yes, or you would say no. And again, it will make sure that you answer all these different options like that. And so you come in here, fill out your name, pick a scale option, pick your favorite subject, give them any feedback. Right? You know, and then once it's done, then you would click submit, and that's how it works, and you would have created your form successfully. Now, one of the beautiful things about Google Forms that I really like is Google Forms has a direct link to Google Sheets because it's part of Google's ecosystem, which is fantastic. So once you create the form and you send it out to people, how do you send the form out to people? You go up to send. Once you click send, it gives you three options. You can either send it via email, you can send it via a link, or you can embed it on a website. That's what this option is for. Most people just choose to send it via link. Usually I select link, I click shorten link, copy that, and then you can go and send that link to everyone. Now, once you've sent that link out to everyone, you just have to come in here and you will see all your responses populate this space called responses in real time. And once you're done and you feel like you have enough responses, then you click this Google Sheet spreadsheet button, and that will take all your responses into a Google Sheet and then allow you to analyze them, okay? So that is a quick crash course on using surveys and starting with Google Forms. So why is Google Forms fantastic? Almost all its features are free. It allows you to add conditional logic, what I mean by conditional logic is it allows you to create conditional questions such that if someone answers yes, then you take them on a different path. If someone answers no, you take them on a different path. You can choose to create different endings to the form based on how someone responds, stuff like that. A lot of survey tools out there don't offer that option for free, so Google Forms does a good job of doing that. Google Forms also allows you to upload images and files and a bunch of different things, again, which is not necessarily accessible in other survey tools. So I want to talk very briefly about the different others out there and tell you why I think you would use one over the other, okay? So I'm going to close Google Forms for now. And so I'm going to open this, and so the next survey tool I want to talk about is SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is also fairly popular. A lot of people have heard about it. Now, SurveyMonkey looks like this. Now, SurveyMonkey is not free. The free version allows you to send maybe, I think, 10 surveys. Allows you to make 10 surveys and get a maximum of, I think, 10 to 40 responses to your survey. When would you use SurveyMonkey? SurveyMonkey is really good for very short surveys. Each SurveyMonkey has a limit of 10 questions. So if you're creating a very short survey, maybe for an event of a small group, maybe you're having a football game party at your home and a watch party at your home, and you want to send out a survey for dietary needs and things like that to only like 5 people, then a SurveyMonkey tool would be fantastic for that. Short form, very few responses expected, fantastic tool in that regard. That's really the main thing. Otherwise, it has most of the other facilities that Google Forms has. You can change the style, you can change the different options, and you have a list of templates that you can use, which is also similar to Google Forms, also allows you to do that. But then a lot of the other features are mostly hidden behind a paywall. For example, access to a wider range of templates is hidden behind a paywall. So this is what we call freemium. Almost all these survey tools are pitched as free, but usually they come with a bunch of caveats, and the free versions are usually quite limited. But SurveyMonkey is the best if you want to send very short surveys to very few people, 10 or less, something like that, okay? The next one I want to talk about is called Typeform. Typeform is the most beautiful of them all. Their user experience is fantastic. However, because it's the most beautiful one of them all, it also comes with certain cost implications. Typeform also has a lot of limitations on how many surveys you can send out and how many responses you can receive. But just take a look at this user interface really quickly, okay? So this is really how you start out, okay? Welcome to Typeform, let's set you up. What I like about their interface and getting into their system is that they give you a sense of what it's like to create a form in Typeform by taking you that similar process when you're onboarding. So it says, let's get you set up. Okay, we get set up. There you go, asks for your first name. I say Shem. I click enter, asks for my last name. I click Opolot, asks, what's the main thing you'll be using Typeform for. I say personal. You just look at that, look at how clean that interface is, right? And how the questions just keep going. What's the main activity? Let me just pick getting feedback. And these are all once I click the answer, it just automatically advances, which is probably something you can set in the settings. And down here, you see it shows you your progress thus far, 67% completed so far. It also allows you to toggle back to other questions in case you want to change your mind. All right, then how do you describe yourself? I'm familiar with this, I just go with that, okay. How did you discover? Let me just do that. And you're all set, let's do this, okay. And I click that, and now it takes me to this screen where I'm supposed to create my own form, okay? And so if I start from scratch, then again, it's just a process of just adding different blocks. And I will give it a second to fire up. But yes, so with Typeform, you just add blocks sort of similarly to Google Forms and sort of similarly to almost every other survey tool out there. The difference is the user experience is just so fantastic. And so here it wants me to give my form a name and all that stuff, and I don't want to do all that right now. But so I just want to show you what that looks like inside. Okay, so create. So we're on what's your name, so I can make a bunch of changes here. If I'm satisfied with that, then I can add, I can add a bunch of different options. Here I can add a question, and it tells me all the different questions to add: short text, multiple choice, statement, opinion, scale, contact information, email. So all these options are very similar to what you see in Google Forms, just looks a little bit different. Almost all the tools are like this. The interface is just a little bit different, but all the components are essentially the same. But I really love Typeform's interface. Everything just looks so beautiful. So if I want to add email, there it goes, and then I've added an email, and I can make that required or not. I can add an image if I want. Then I go down here, then I want to add some sort of multiple choice question. And then so I just do that, and I add a choice, and Typeform, extremely beautiful. What are the limitations of Typeform? So for Typeform, they allow you also 10 questions per Typeform, so only 10 questions and only 10 responses per month. So they try to hook you in with that user interface, and then 10 responses, that's it. So again, if you have also a short survey that you want to send out, try Typeform because it looks beautiful, and it would make someone a lot more inclined to respond to your survey if it's cute. From Typeform, the next one I want to talk about, which is one of the little known ones, is called JotForm. And JotForm, again, I'm not going to go into the details here. Most of them, again, are the same. The way you build them out is pretty much very similar. What's the big thing about JotForm? JotForm, together with Tally.so, which is another survey tool, have the best options for the free version. Okay, I said Google Forms was 100% free, but one of the things that I don't like about Google Forms is that it doesn't allow you to incorporate sort of payment options. What if you want to create a survey form that allows you to collect payments from your respondents? Say, for example, for an event registration, something like that. You'd have to sort of add some add-in which is paid for, which will then allow you to collect payments from your clients. But JotForm has a ton of integrations for payments. Look here, it has PayPal, PayPal Pro, Stripe, it has Cash App, Venmo, WorldPay, so many options for you to collect payments from your clients. And for me, really, that's the main thing I like about JotForm, is because you're able to collect payments from your clients via a survey form. It does also allow you to add a bunch of widgets, which is things like adding a signature line and allowing you to embed PDFs into the document, upload them. So if it's something that sounds interesting to you, then I would check it out too. That's JotForm, really cool. The other tool that I want to talk about is called Tally.so. Now, Tally.so, I think, is one of the best free options out there. Okay, the reason why it's one of the best free options out there. Here's a tool that I created. I send out this survey to ask people about how they use technology in their work. And as you can see, it almost looks like no survey you've ever seen, right? I mean, depending on how familiar you are with creating survey tools. But yeah, this is what this one looks like. And everything is fully customizable. The fonts, the colors, the buttons, the colors of the fonts, everything in the form you can customize. That's also the same for, I do have to be fair, Typeform also is fully customizable. SurveyMonkey, or in the paid versions, is fully customizable. Google Forms is very limited in customizability. That's another drawback. You can change the colors and the themes, but you can't change the colors of the buttons and things like that. It's just, it's very rigid in that way. But Tally.so allows you to change almost everything about the form. It can look like something no one has ever seen. Tally says 99% of their features are free, and all the features that are paid for are the features that require some sort of collaboration and teams. So if you want to use it to collaborate with teams and in different workspaces with a bunch of different team members and on an enterprise level, then you will have to pay a certain fee. So, but otherwise, Tally.so is a valuable one I suggest you look into as well. I've used it more recently because I like the customizability. It allows me to make things very black and white because I like clean black or white, gray type interfaces. So look into Tally.so. Then, but finally, the last survey tool that I want to talk about is called BlockSurvey. BlockSurvey is a little known one. A lot of people haven't heard about it, but this tool is fantastic. Now, BlockSurvey is best for someone who really cares about their privacy. So if you're sending out surveys in sensitive environments, things like HR, things like if you're a therapist, or if you're sending out surveys to patients, so surveys that are collecting sensitive information. If you're in that realm of sensitive information, you want to have a survey tool that is end-to-end encrypted, and BlockSurvey does that beautifully. And it's built for Web3. This is not a video where I explain to you what Web3 is, or what end-to-end encryption is, or what the blockchain is, but BlockSurvey is built on the blockchain and is end-to-end encrypted. So when you create the survey tool, you are the only one that has access to the responses and to the tools and to everything that you use to create the tools. And also, it's beautiful. So let's get in there and check it out. So one of my favorite things. So I created a tool for feedback for one of my companies. And so these are the different questions. I was mainly getting feedback for people that are borrowing our games. Okay, and so these are different blocks. Again, it's similar. You just keep adding a block. You come down here to add question, and you add a block. And then on the side here, I just want to show you some of the customizability that's possible. It allows you to sort of see what the form looks like. And yes, this looks similar to Typeform, which honestly is not a drawback. This is similar to Typeform, so it's very beautiful. But also, the customizability is something that I want to talk about. If we go to themes, so in themes, it gives you a bunch of different options for what your questions can look like, and there's tons of options there. Usually you can probably find one you like in there, but if you don't want those, then you can go to custom and you can change everything individually. You can change the color of the question, the color of the answer, the background, the buttons text. You can add color swatch, just extremely customizable. It's a beautiful tool. Okay, so you can change the fonts. There are different font options you can select from. Variables is a bit high level for most people, but that allows you to create certain customizability within the form as well. And then notifications and exporting, it gives you a bunch of options to export the form as a JSON or as a PDF. And then there are a bunch of different settings that you can change. Okay, so it's a beautiful, beautiful tool, very customizable. Let me show you one of my favorite features, okay? One of my favorite features in here, which I really haven't seen in a lot of these other tools, is changing the way your survey can look, okay? So this is the first option for the survey. So this is the first page, okay? So first of all, it shows you what it will look like on a tablet, on a desktop, and what it'll look like on mobile, okay? So that's really cool. The next thing is it shows you the one question at a time option, which is similar to Typeform, something that you see a lot more often. So then the classic option, which the classic option is where you will have sort of a whole page of questions going one at a time once you start. So if I click start, this is the classic option. Sorry, I just need to go back to design, okay? So yeah, so the classic option tends to look very similar to most of the other options out there, okay? So this is what it looks like. So in the classic version, what you will have is you will have it, so when I click start, here you're able to see all the questions at once. So that's what typical forms look like. But then one of my favorites, which I haven't seen ever before, is they have this conversational view, which turns your survey into some sort of, it's like a conversation with the person filling it out, okay? So they ask you what survey, and you click jigsaw puzzles, and you click next, and look at that. It's like there's bubbles, and it's asking you a question. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. I've never seen anything like that before. So then you select this answer, and again, once you give your answer, it asks, what should we start doing? And then the person responds, everything. And they hit enter. Fam. I've never seen anything like this before. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorites just for this alone. However, some of the drawbacks is it's a little expensive. With BlockSurvey, you get 3 forms and 50 responses for each of those forms, okay? However, one of the cool things that they allow you to do that a lot of other forms don't is they allow you to buy responses. So if you create a nice shiny form and you realize that you're going to need a lot more responses, then all you have to do is pay a one-time fee of $10 or something like that to increase the number of responses that you want to have from 50 to 500 to 5,000, something like that. So that's, I think, better than a lot of the like monthly subscriptions a lot of the other forms try to lock you into. So on that note, BlockSurvey, definitely check it out. Use it next time. You have 3 forms to create for 50 responses. And if you feel like it's really important for you, then I would use it going forward. But then also, again, if you work in a company and you want to send out surveys for things like HR, where some of the responses are very sensitive, HR, patient data, internal memo company data, things like that. So a bunch of stuff where you know if this stuff leaks and you're in trouble, then I recommend you use BlockSurvey, in which case you would just buy some sort of enterprise level arrangement with them and just use that going forward, because the end-to-end encryption, the building of it on a blockchain and built for Web3, those 3 tell me that this is privacy on steroids. So BlockSurvey is definitely one of them that you should check out. Otherwise, that's it for this video. I hope I've opened your eyes to a bit more survey tools out there, and hopefully I've also polished your use of surveys in general by sort of telling you what to look for when you're designing your surveys. Otherwise, don't forget to like this video, share it with anyone you know, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good week. Bye.